Let's move on, because we want to talk about the row that has erupted between the PFAI, the Players' Union in Ireland, and the FAI. There's been a bit of a row brewing over the last while. Frank Gavin was on Air Sport last week, and he was unhappy with what he said was the conduct of the leadership of the PFAI. Since then, the FAI released a statement yesterday afternoon where they said that their board had agreed in principle to the establishment of a new fund, which would basically be €300,000, which they would put in escrow as a last resort to pay players if clubs got into financial difficulty. Included in the press release from the FAI yesterday was the notion that this fund would be part funded by the FAI and equally part funded by the Professional Footballers Association of Ireland. For more on this story, we have Stephen McGuinness, General Secretary of the PFAI, with us this morning. Stephen, good morning to you.
Hey, Ger. How things?
What was the very first time that you had any correspondence from the FAI about the notion of this €300,000 fund?
I suppose, like everything in football, Ger, at times you hear corridor talk and whispers of funds of this nature. I spoke about it in a podcast myself only last week, and we see the merits in it. But the first time that we had heard of this was when I was contacted by a journalist yesterday to comment on a statement that the FAI had made. So we were unaware that the FAI were making the statement that they made yesterday. We have no details. And just to be clear, there's been no formal discussions with the PFAI in relation to this fund, nor formal discussions with SIPTU in relation to this fund. So there's been basically no formal discussions in relation to a fund of this nature, and or the fact of us putting 150,000 towards it.
Just to, like, I just want to, I know I'm kind of nitpicking here, but so did the FAI at least get in touch with SIPTU and say, look, we're going to release this statement and we're going to propose the notion of this 300 grand fund? What was
No is the answer to that. No. There was no discussions with anybody about statements going out. There was no discussions with anybody from the FAI, and I think the SIPTU have made a statement today saying that they had no official contact from anybody from the FAI. So I think John Delaney had a press conference, I believe, today in relation to the finances of the FAI. I believe Frank Gavin is speaking at that as well. So I'm sure they'll clear up who they have been discussing this fund with, and the details of it, and who they've been discussing it with, and the details of what's come out of their meetings. But I can assure you one thing, there's been no formal discussions with ourselves, and the discussions that I have had with SIPTU is that they haven't had any formal discussions with anybody from the FAI in relation to this.
Okay.
So it seems to be a move, from what we can see, of a point scoring move. I can't understand why you would come out with a statement like that when you haven't spoken to us about it. That's all I can think is that it's point scoring. I can't understand how they can go out with a statement like that. We're having no discussions with us. And it's remarkable that the board have approved this. And they've made this public. Like they spoke the other day, Frank Gavin spoke about a circus, a media circus. They have created a media circus here without discussing it with the very body that you're setting a fund up with. No formal discussions, no paperwork put in front of us in relation to how it would work. It's remarkable, really. Just
for balance, I just want to read out what the statement from on this fund from the FAI that dropped into everybody's inboxes yesterday. The board of the FAI has agreed to the creation of a proposed fund worth €300,000, split equally between the FAI and the PFAI, to assist SSE Airtricity League clubs who are experiencing difficulty in meeting contractual obligations to professional players. The FAI have initiated this fund and have contacted the Professional Footballers Association of Ireland via SIPTU on matching the amount that the FAI board have approved. SIPTU haven't heard anything about this.
But Jerry, a question here would be, why are they going through SIPTU? Like, everybody knows that we are in the same building as the FAI. We are 4 doors away from them. Why would they go discuss it with SIPTU? What relationship have they got there? Why would they not come and discuss anything of this importance now, of this size, of this magnitude, something with this type of money in it, and they decide that they don't want to walk? Like, people are walking by the door of my office every day who are making these statements, and nobody wants to sit down with you and discuss it. Like, I think it's well documented how hard we've tried to get a meeting with the FAI over the last number of weeks. We wrote to John Delaney last week for a meeting with him and didn't respond. We wrote to him numerous times looking to clear the air after the Women's International debacle, decided not to respond. So to come out with this stuff is just, I honestly, you have to speak to the FAI on why they feel that this is the right way to do your business. To discuss, and obviously SIP2 will have to clear it up from there, and they've spoken to me last night. They said they've had no direct contact from anybody within the FAI. That's what they've said to me.
Were you guys, it was reported today that you guys were due to meet on Wednesday with the FAI. Was that with Fran Gavin? That was yourself and Fran Gavin? Is that accurate? Did that meeting, was that scheduled?
Yeah, there was a scheduled meeting for yesterday, which was with Fran Gavin, or as I believe, Fran Gavin and Rhea Walsh, who's head of the legal department and head of licensing within the FAI. And what we believed that meeting was going to be about was trying to rebuild relationships. We were asked, could we put forward what the issues that we had with the FAI and how would we iron these issues out and how would we work together going forward, which we were obviously very welcome to, or very open to, should I say. And then obviously discussions about what happened in the recent past with Limerick and with Bray, and working, I would have thought, to try and come up with some solutions to ensure that doesn't happen again. And that's what I thought a discussion was. That was then cancelled and then scheduled for Friday. We then obviously hear then that the FAI have a press day today, and maybe they felt that they needed to have something to talk about after a press release today, because it's due to their finances, I believe. But to come out with this stuff yesterday, it is really remarkable again. And communication has been a problem with us and the FAI for quite a while now, or the lack of communication from them. So to come out with this, when, as I said to you already, there's been no direct contact with us in relation to this, and why they feel it necessary to go through SIP2, it's just, I can't answer that for you. I mean, it really does have to come from the FAI to discuss why they took that route instead of just speaking to us direct.
Stephen, do you have any idea what would happen if you don't pay your half of the €300,000?
It's, as I said, yesterday was the first time that I had seen anything approved by the board of the FAI. Like, the figures are remarkable. To think that players would pay into a fund themselves to pay their own wages, I mean, I've never heard of anything like it. There's no such fund worldwide. FIFPro, the World Players Union, are obviously working on insolvency cases all the time around the world, and they're looking at FIFA and a percentage of the transfer fees that are made worldwide to go into a fund to help insolvency. But to suggest that players would pay into a fund themselves to pay their own wages, it's just ludicrous.
Can you talk to us a bit about the PFAI's finances? Where does the bulk of your revenue come from every year?
Yeah, the bulk of the revenue comes from FIFA, comes from the World Players Union, and to get funding from them, you have to hit certain criteria. So you have to provide certain like education, mental health. So you have to provide a number of services to the membership to receive funding from FIFA. We're the only players' body in the country who receives no direct funding from its own federation. So the FAI, we receive no funding from them. So there's no direct funding from the FAI to the PFAI, unlike the GPA, unlike the Rugby Players Union. There's no direct funding coming to us, so all our monies come from one source, and there is subscriptions paid by the players, but that's paid directly into SIP2 to give the players the right to strike. So it isn't that the FAI in any way fund us, unlike the GPA and the Rugby.
Okay, and the FIFPro funding essentially is largely coming off the back of the FIFA computer game, because as far as I know, FIFPro licensed the players, and the players allow their...
Right.
Yeah, so and that would be the main source of income from you guys. Is that capped? Is there a certain amount? Like, is that public?
Yeah, it's sort of, the way that works is it's based on the rankings of your league. So obviously our rankings don't dramatically move. We have got better, but it's based on the rankings of your league and how well you're doing, obviously, within to put a value around what you're doing. The rankings of your league as you compete in Europe, and the higher it goes, the more funding that you obviously potentially can get through the gaming industry. So ours is sort of fairly stagnant over the last number of years, but we live within our means. Like, we're, from an association point of view, it's ran by players. Our board and committee are ran by players. Gary Rogers is the chairman. I've spoken to a number of the players off the committee yesterday who are surprised and shocked. I just have the phone with Shane Supple there. I spoke to Brian Gartland yesterday. I mean, they're just ultimately shocked by what was said yesterday, and the suggestion that they would fund to pay themselves. It is remarkable. I think the concept of the fund, not to get away from this, I think the concept of the fund is the right one. Obviously the FAI don't feel that the licensing criteria or the licensing model is going to ensure that we don't have the problems that we had over the last couple of weeks. So they've obviously looked and said, we have issues, and no matter what way we deal with this, we're going to really need this fund to back it up with. And the concept of the fund is the right one. But to go with what they went with yesterday, I can't really understand it. To sit down and discuss it with and go through the merits of it and say how it's going to work. Like, how does the fund, if a club goes out of business, how does the fund how do you refill the fund again? There's a million and one questions you've got around it. But to come out with it yesterday, it just seems like they're trying to corner us into something, which is hugely disappointing. If you want to have a relationship with us and we want to work together, it really doesn't help when you're coming with statements like this. Have I not discussed it with us directly?
Is this indicative of a wider problem, Stephen, in the relationship between the PFAI and the FAI? Like, I'm not sure how much dialogue the two parties have. Yeah,
I probably agree with you on that. I will say that we're open at all times to discuss anything with the FAI. I think it does. If you're being honest, I think it does stem back to women's international stuff. I think there was people within the FAI right to the very top that were badly hurt by how what was said and the fallout of that has been. That relationship have been frosty. I think we have to be honest with that. We have tried our very best to try and resolve them, but like everything, it's about communication. And people make stands and players make stands because of the lack of communication and because of the lack of progress. And the FAI have decided to take their stance as they have on it, and that's fine. It's disappointing from us, but we're very open to work with them, and anybody within the game will tell you that. But I think it goes back to that, and it really does need it clear the air. I'll say now, we're open to meet with John Delaney at any point to start this out once and for all, for us to have a good working relationship. But it doesn't help when they're making statements of that nature yesterday without discussing it with us.
How many times have you met John Delaney in a professional capacity?
In the last 2 years, none.
Are you meeting Fran Gavin on a regular basis?
Obviously, Fran's relationship with us, he was the General Secretary before I took it over, so I would have had a good working relationship with him for quite a while. After the Women's International stuff, it seems to me that there may have been instruction made to senior management within the FAI that maybe relationships with the PFA weren't what they were. There would have been a relationship where you could have called around and asked questions about what was going on, and you would have got a response, whatever else. I think we've said it in the past, that relationship has it has finished, and you can't have that direct conversation with them anymore. It's more of a formal relationship. So,
Stephen, just to go back to the whole notion of the size and scale of the fund, would 150 grand be a significant dent in your annual revenues?
Yeah, it would. It would be, and I think the figure as well. I'm just wondering where the figure has come from. Like, I mean, the figures that you're probably looking at in regards to Bray and Limerick and the issues that they ran into, it wouldn't be near 150,000 would be the two issues that you would have. So it wouldn't even be near 150,000 for the players' wages on the month that was out. So it wouldn't be significant. I don't think it needs more than probably 150,000. But there's been no discussion, Jared, on it. That's the thing is, if there was discussion, you sat down with the FAI and they explained why they're coming out with that type of figure, why they feel that it's necessary, and dialogue across the table, then we can all tease it out and say, yeah, look, we can see where it works, we can see where we can all play a part in this. But when they don't discuss it with you, it's just very, very difficult. It's very difficult to even answer any of your questions, Jared, because, as I said, I don't know any of the detail, and none of it has been put in front of us. None of it has been discussed with us, and that's the huge disappointing thing yesterday. And then you have this missile launching of statements back and forth, which doesn't help football at all. And as I said, we're very open to discuss it with the FAI. We're very open to tease out what the ideas behind it is, but to not get into dialogue with us, you would have to ask the FAI, is that the right approach to take?
Yeah.
Something as important, Jared, as this. This is very, very important. Players' wages and the continuity of the game and the integrity of the game. And they have decided yesterday that they're going to put a statement out speaking to the very body who they're supposed to be setting this fund with.
Yeah. One last point in terms of a missile of a statement. The PFAI statement was full of zingers, is how it's been described on Twitter as well. The total fund proposed is less than the annual salary of the chief executive of the FAI, thus making it deeply insulting that players, all of whom earn a tiny percentage of his income, should be expected to contribute to a fund to pay their own wages.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you believe John Delaney's paid too much?
It's up to the board of the FAI to decide how much he gets paid.
Yeah. You can see how that might provoke them, or him in particular.
Well, that's up to the FAI to decide how they respond to anything that we say. It's the same as, I would say, Jared, the statement made by the FAI yesterday I'm sure it was to provoke us, because I cannot understand why you would put a statement out of that nature without discussing it with us.
Stephen, we'll leave it there for now. Obviously, we'll get the opportunity to put some questions to Fran Gavin and John Delaney a little bit later on. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Roger. Thank you.